Dream Reality by Curtis S. Arnold. Galloway tossed and turned in bed all night. He turned the fan off, turned it on again, tried sleeping with the lamp on, but nothing seemed to calm him down. He was as restless as an angry tiger, anxious and ready to pounce. He stared at the glowing stars in the ceiling and groaned. There was no one home, as his parents had both left together on a vacation to Canada. Of all places to vacation, Galloway said aloud, they chose Canada. Galloway didn't much like vacationing. He was much more content with a good book, a cup of tea, and a warm sweater any time of the year than he was going anywhere besides the 20 acres of land that his parents owned or his house. He reached over and turned the lamp on again. He picked up a book that he'd been reading, and upon looking at 3 words, tossed it onto the floor with annoyance. I can't even read. This sucks. Galloway lay staring at the ceiling for several minutes. Then he thought to himself, I'll get some milk. That ought to calm me down enough. And he swung his legs from out under the bed and his feet into a cool pair of metal boots. Wait, this isn't, Galloway thought, looking down at what were supposed to be his slippers and pulling up his foot, saw a metal boot. He tried to move, but it required a lot of energy to do so. He was thirsty now, and he needed to go downstairs. Come on, he said aloud, trying to remove the boot, but it wouldn't budge. He frowned and shambled his way out of the door and carefully walked to the steps, careful not to trip on the way down. When his feet touched the landing, they didn't touch anything. Instead, he fell straight down into a black abyss that seemed to never end. He screamed all the way down until he awoke on the counter in the kitchen. He looked around and rubbed his tired eyes. He looked down at his feet, and they were bare. No slippers, and especially no metal shoes. He scooted himself from the counter and tapped the floor with his toes to ensure its existence and said, What the hell is going on? Did I sleepwalk all the way down here? Was I dreaming and not being able to sleep? He shook his head in confusion and walked to the fridge. Opening it, he eyed it for a moment before pulling out a jug of milk and the chocolate syrup. He set them both on the counter and went to the cabinet and pulled out a glass. He turned on the light above the sink and looked at the milk. Inside was no longer milk, but a dark green substance of some sort. He picked it up, and it seemed heavier now than before. Pulling the cap off, he snipped and promptly threw up in the sink. The smell was incomparable of that of anything in existence. When he turned back to the jug, all that was inside was the milk. He swished it around inside the jug and sniffed with hesitation, only to learn that it was indeed milk. I know. A short drive will clear my head. That ought to help me sleep, he said. He grabbed the keys from the rack in the kitchen and walked out to his mother's car. She wouldn't mind if he took it as long as he came right back. He kept waiting for something weird to happen, but as he pulled out of the drive, nothing went wrong. He cruised nicely along the dark road, and the moonlight poured down in streaks through the dense forest. He was about to take a sharp turn, and then he realized, I don't know how to drive. Galloway looked in curiosity and fear at the steering wheel, and suddenly the car veered off to the left and tumbled quickly down a steep ravine. He knocked his head on the side of the steering wheel, and everything went black. When Galloway awoke, he was sitting cross-legged on the side of the road, the neon glare of a gas station behind him. He scrambled to his feet and searched every inch of his body. There were no scratches, and the car was nowhere to be seen. What's going on? Galloway asked aloud, now panicking. He sprinted to the gas station, which doubled as a truck stop, and as he came flying into the doors, a man said, Why, Galloway, where have you been? What do you mean? Who are you? Galloway asked. That doesn't matter. Like hell. You know they say when you can't sleep, it's because you're awake in another person's dream? No, I didn't know that. Galloway looked confused and then said, That's why all this stuff is happening. Galloway slowly drifted into a sleep and fell fast to the floor. The man, the diner, and everything ceased to exist, and there was a faint, high-pitched beep coming from somewhere around him. It faded, and everything went black. Rosanna stirred in her sleep. She dreamed of a boy named Galloway, and she remembered hearing the name while she was in her coma. She knew nothing about him other than his name, but for some reason she dreamed of him. And in her dream, weird things kept happening until finally he vanished into an abyss. A nurse, dressed all in white, came running into room 457 and ran straight to Galloway Evans' bed. The heart monitor was a solid beep, and she looked over as the girl next to him stirred in her deep coma and shot awake in bed. Galloway had died in Rosanna's dream, and when she looked over to see him dead, she burst into tears, the faint whisper of his voice still calling in the back of her mind. The end.